For the record, please state your name and your current address.
My name is Robert Donlon. I live at 2326 Gurenson Lane, Niskayuna, New York.
What year did you join the U.S. Navy?
I joined the reserves in September 1952 at Scotia Reserve Center.
How long did you serve and during what period?
I was in the regular Navy April 1st, April Fool Joke Day, 1953 to July 55.
Was it during a time of peace or war?
That was during the Korean conflict, the tail end of it.
When you enlisted, how old were you?
19.
Where were you living when you enlisted?
I was living in Cohoes with my parents and my brothers and sisters.
Did you have any prior experiences at sea?
No, none.
What family did you leave when you left home for the Navy?
My parents, 5 sisters, and 4 brothers.
What were your feelings about leaving?
About what?
Leaving.
Oh, I was excited. I couldn't wait for it. I really thought it was going to be great.
Prior to enlisting, what did you do in civilian life?
I was a draftsman up at the General Electric Company in Schenectady.
What education did you have?
Graduated from Cohoes High School in 1951.
Were you a Boy Scout?
Yep. My father was the scoutmaster of the troop.
Did any aspect of scouting help you prepare for your Navy experiences?
Well, I really can't say it did unless you want to consider knot tying, but that didn't do me much.
What troop?
Troop 44, St. Agnes' Cohoes.
When you joined the Navy, what were your first experiences?
Well, originally I went to boot camp for 2 weeks as a reserves, and that was in January of '53. And then I got my draft notice, so I volunteered for active duty and went in April 1st, April 1st, 1953 at Bainbridge, Maryland.
What were your impressions of boot camp?
Well, it was a lot stricter than I thought it would be and everything, and not like I was living at home, that's for sure.
Okay. What was the destroyer escort or escort's name which you served on?
The USS Robert F. Keller. It was a DE-419, and it was stationed down at the Naval Gun Factory in Washington, D.C.
How long did you serve on the ship?
A little over a year and a half.
What was your first experience with a destroyer escort?
The first time we pulled out, I remember steaming down the Potomac, and was getting a little woozy because I'd never been out even to sea on anything, but it was fun. It was enjoyable.
Did the ship appear small or large?
To me, it seemed pretty big, but now being aboard the Slater here now, I can't believe how tiny it is.
What was your first at-sea experience?
Well, our first cruise, we went to Bermuda, so it was more like, to me, it was like a nice, enjoyable cruise that other people were paying to take these cruise ships on. And we were a reserve trainer, so we would take out other naval personnel and Marines and teach them how to do the operations on the ship.
Were you a plank owner?
No.
Where did your ship go next?
We mostly, like I said, there was a reserve trainer, so we went on 2-week cruises, and we'd go up and down the east coast of the United States, Canada, South America, the Caribbean, and Panama Canal. What
theaters of duty did the ship sail?
Well, it was during the Korean War, but we never got into any active wartime things or anything.
Can you give us a rough idea of other places you sailed to and the times involved?
Well, a couple of them that I remember was Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and that's where I had picked up the sonar contact on the way back in on training one time. And the Russian sub surfaced 3 days later. Evidently they were spying on us. And another one I remembered was up in St. John, New Brunswick, where the tide comes in and out, goes about 40, 50 feet. So you tie up to the pier, you come in, and you're going to walk right off, and then an hour or two later, you're about 30 feet down below the pier. So that was pretty interesting, I thought.
Okay. Do you want to take a break?
If you want. Don't have to.
Okay. When you first boarded the ship, what was your rating and rate?
I was a seaman, sonarman striker, and when we went underway, we didn't usually stand sonar watches. We did radar watches.
How did you learn about the shipboard routine?
Mostly from our senior sonar strikers and our petty officers that were in charge of me.
Did you spend any time as a mess cook?
Yep. In when I was down at Key West going to the sonar school, we had a week of mess cooking while people went on leave for Christmas and Thanksgiving. And then when I got aboard ship, I had to do a month of mess cooking. But because I was a sonar rank and not deck force, I got off pretty easy by going into the chief's quarter and taking care of them.
Did you advance to a higher rate?
Yeah, I made petty officer 3rd class.
By what means?
Through a test and time spent in the Navy.
Did you receive formal training in your rating, or did you serve as a striker?
Well, I went to sonar school for, I think it was 9 months, and then after the school we graduated, I stayed down there for another month to help instruct the cadets from the Annapolis to show them how the sonar gear worked. That way there, it gave me a little break to pick out my billet for the next tour.
Which shipboard equipment did you operate?
Well, it was the sonar gear, but most of the time we stood radar watches, plotting and coursing the ship and checking on other ships that would come in contact with us.
What was the function of this equipment?
Well, the radar was to plot our course and speed and direct us to where we were going and keep contact on other ships that were coming near us.
Is there anything notable about the equipment?
Well, the radar works basically like the sonar gear, except that it would send out waves, but the sonar was underwater where radar is in the air and everything.
Did it always work?
Yeah, I don't ever remember it failing. I'm glad it didn't.
Was it easy to operate?
Well, after you got trained on it and you got the knack of it, after a couple of weeks and whatever, it was pretty easy to operate, I think.
Were there any tricks of the trade which made your work easier?
Not really.
Did the equipment have to be cleaned and maintained?
Yeah.
Was that easy?
Well, it was easy part taking care of the gear and keeping it in tip-top shape. The bad part was when you had to go down forward and where the transducer was and you had to paint the compartment down there, and I didn't like that too much.
Besides operating equipment, was your rate also involved in the performance of other certain duties?
Well, like I said, just the sonar was to contact and get contact on submarines, and the radar was plotting the course, the ship, and directing the captain which way we were going.
Did you provide support to other crew members and officers?
Not really. It was mostly the sonar gang, the radio gang, and up in CIC, that was basically where we were.
What watches and watch sections did you routinely stand?
There again, it was up in the radar shack when we were underway, and you stood different watches. It depended on what section come up, 4 to 12 or 8.
3-section?
3-section watch, yeah. And it was 4-hour shifts.
What were your specific duties during the watch?
During the watch was, again, plotting the ship, watching the speed, directing through the orders that the skipper gave to make sure we were maintaining our course and speed and everything.
How did the watch sections vary based on the readiness condition?
Basically, they were all the same, just different hours of the day and everything, except if we were having general quarters, then you had to button up your shirts and put on all your other gear and everything, and that was the only difference, I think, really.
Did you favor one watch over another?
Well, I probably liked the 8 to 12 in the morning, because then you had the rest of the day and you could sleep all night and watch the movies on the fantail and everything.
What hardships did you encounter while standing watch?
Well, none really. There wasn't anything to really make it difficult for us.
Were you cold, hot, wet, boring, or bored?
No, because most of our cruises were down through the Caribbean, so it was always nice warm weather and wasn't boring. I enjoyed it at nighttime, just watching us sail, and you couldn't see anything, and you just were amazed at how we got to where we were going.
Did you do the same basic duties during general quarters, or did your duties change?
Okay, now that's when we had general quarters, then we had to stay on sonar watches, so then we had to go up and light off the gear.
How long would you remain at general quarters?
Usually the skipper would keep us at general quarters. It was mostly training. We weren't in wartime, so we didn't have to worry about that. So it was just a matter of a couple of hours probably.
How frequently would you be called to general quarters?
Oh boy, wasn't very many that we had. It was when we were on a shakedown cruise at Gitmo. Then we were at general quarters the whole day when we were doing that. But that was just for like maybe a couple days for training.
Did you perform general quarters drills often?
No.
How long would it take to man general quarters?
Boy, I don't think it took more than probably 10 minutes for everybody to get to where they were supposed to be going and doing things. But I imagine the guys that were serving in actually wartime, they probably had it down in less time than that.
Did the time improve the more you drilled?
Did the what?
Did the time improve the more you drilled?
I think we stayed about the same. Like I said, we didn't do too much of it.
What specific sea details were you involved with?
Just our radar watches of getting the course in the ship.
Did you have an active role during underway refueling and replenishment details?
No, I used to watch them guys, and that used to amaze me. Getting a line over to a tanker or something and maintaining the steady speed to keep you on line with them, because the helmsman, if he made a mistake, we were going to wrap that thing.
When the ship was at sea for an extended period of time, how frequently would refueling and replenishment take place?
Yeah, see, there again, we were only out on like 2-week cruises, so we didn't have to really do that. The only time we did that was just for training purposes, and I only remember doing that once.
Do you want to take a break or keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. While on destroyer escorts, who were your COs?
Our skipper his name was Commander Voorhees. I don't remember what his first name was, or I don't even remember our executive officer's name.
What leadership style did they use?
He was pretty gung-ho and real Navy guy.
Were they by the book?
Yeah, definitely.
Did you ever have any first-hand experiences in officers' country?
Not really. That was out of bounds for me.
What was your overall impression with the quality of other officers?
Everyone that we had aboard ship, I think they were excellent in their field. The gunnery officer, the one that was in charge of communications, our skipper, the exec, all of those guys, I think they were just top-notch.
Did you have any leadership responsibilities?
No, I was the low man on the totem in the sonar gang.
Any comment on storms or rough weather?
We had a good time. Coming back from St. John's, New Brunswick, there was a hurricane coming up the coast, so our skipper, whose wife at the time was in New York City, and we had a choice of either trying to skirt the hurricane or pull into New York City, and we thought, wow, the old man's wife was there, we're going to go there. He decided he was going to go around it, and we had some pretty rough weather. We got some leaks up in our bow plates, our radar gear went out, and we sent out an SOS. We thought we were going to sink, and it was pretty scary.
How much did your ship roll?
I think we took a 37-degree roll.
Did storms and rough weather affect everyday activities like eating and sleeping?
Well, the few storms we were in, I know we couldn't even go out aboard the deck. We had to stay inside, and then we couldn't even go down below decks at one point. And it was pretty rough eating and everything. But I like the rougher weather better than the calm weather, because that's when the few times that I did get sick, it would be when it was just a slow roll and a yaw and a pitch and everything else.
Okay, we're back on.
What about meals on board ship?
Well, believe it or not, I went in the Navy, I weighed 119 pounds. When I come out, I weighed 165. So the food must have been pretty good. And I liked SOS, I'd go back for seconds on that.
What about the usage of water?
Well, that was a little restricted on us. When we used to take showers, we had to just wet down, soap up, then rinse off, and you couldn't just stand like you do at home, let the old water run for as long as you wanted.
Were there other personal items in short supply?
No, because we usually filled up pretty good on our food supply, and like I said, 2-week cruises, by the time we were coming back in, we were running out so we could just replenish again.
Any humorous stories involving shipboard life?
Well, we had a couple good ones. Our skipper, I don't know, he was gung-ho and everything, and he liked to do things by the book. We were steaming down the Potomac first time at nighttime, and we had the radar watch, and I told the old man that we had a radar contact we were on a collision course with. And he said, that's okay, we're the United States Navy, we got the right of way, they'll get out of the way. Well, unfortunately, the boat was a 30-foot fishing boat that was anchored. We plowed right into it and sunk it. Nobody got hurt, but big headlines in the Washington paper, Keller sinks fishing boat in the Potomac.
When you weren't working or standing watch, what pastimes were available?
If we're out at sea, usually, I kind of loafed around and we had fishing parties, or we had movies on the fantail and different things that guys would have some games to play and everything like that.
Were snacks and treats available?
No.
What about field day activities?
Not too many of those, but like I said, I know we did have fishing party one time we're out, and swim party and things like that.
What about holidays at sea?
We didn't have holidays at sea because at Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's we were back in port, and then depending on what Liberty party you had, you either got home for Christmas or New Year's.
What about religious services?
Those, we didn't have any aboard our ship. But like I said, there again, we were only out for 2 weeks, so when we were in port on the weekends, then you would take in the church services of your choice.
Do you have any stories regarding crossing the Equator?
No, we just missed going across that. We all were hoping the skipper would take us, and he didn't.
Did you visit any interesting ports of call?
Havana, Cuba was a good one. I liked that one. And I liked St. John's, New Brunswick, where the tide went in and out 30, 40 feet. Of course, when we hit all these nice ports down in the Caribbean, we used to post them on the bulletin board where people were paying for these cruises, and here we were being paid to go to these places and enjoy all the good times.
What type of liberty were you given?
There again, it was starboard and port watches had liberty, so then you'd have maybe the first one in would have to stay on the watch for the day, and the next day you would have liberty in port, so it was pretty lenient.
How did you stay in touch with your family?
Well, our ship was stationed in Washington, D.C., so on long weekends I could take the train home, or just letter writing or phone calls.
How did you feel when you were finally discharged?
Well, it was good to get out. When I reflect back on it now, I wish I had stayed in.
How do you look back upon your destroyer escort experiences?
That was just it was a good, fun part of my life, and I got to see a lot of parts of the world that I never would have seen. And like I said, it was during the Korean War time, and I wasn't in any actual combat, so I didn't have the hardships that these other guys had put in.
Thank you for sharing your experiences with future generations. Are there any other comments you would like to add?
No, just accept good luck to Eric with his Eagle Scout.
Dan.
Oh, Dan, that's right, it was Dan. Eric's the guy that's on the ship here. With Dan, that I hope he gets enough guys and gets Eagle, because I know my brother, he was Eagle Scout, and at a Tory Day and Order of the Arrow he was, and my father was the Scoutmaster, so I know what he's going through. So I just wish him a lot of luck with it.
Okay.
And thank you guys for giving me this little interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.